Previously, a conspiracy had formed inside one of the most powerful royal households in history. A queen determined to see her own son inherit the throne. Officials, servants, and members of the royal household accused of joining her. For centuries, the details remained buried beneath sands of time. Then archaeologists uncovered ancient records that revealed something extraordinary. The conspiracy wasn't legendary, it was real. The intended victim, Ramesses III, pharaoh of ancient Egypt. But one question still remained. How did you assassinate the most powerful man in one of the greatest civilizations the world has ever known? If you want to overthrow Pharaoh, where would you even begin? Ramesses wasn't an ordinary ruler. He commanded armies, controlled enormous wealth, and held supreme political authority. To many Egyptians, he wasn't simply a queen. A king, sorry, not a queen. He was regarded as the earthly representation of gods, with several queens at his side. His safety wasn't left to chance. Royal guards protected him, trusted officials surrounded him, servants attended to his every need. His movements were carefully managed. Anyone approaching him would almost certainly have been known, which makes the conspiracy all the more remarkable, because according to surviving evidence, the threat didn't come from outside the palace, it came from within. Today the word harem often creates misleading image. In ancient Egypt, the royal harem was far more than a collection of royal wives. It functioned almost like a small community within the palace. Queens, second wives, children, servants, officials, teachers, craftsmen, security staff. Many people lived and worked here. It was a place of influence, political, relationships, and sometimes rivalries. Succession mattered enormously, and the son who eventually inherited the throne would shape the future of Egypt. For ambitious families, the future meant everything. According to the papyri, it was here that one Queen Tay began to gather support. The surviving records never allowed us to hear Tay's own voice. Everything we know came through investigators written after the conspiracy had been uncovered. That means we must be careful. History is often written by those who survive. Even so, the papyri consistently places Tay at the centre of the plot. According to these documents, she attempted to organise support for her son, Pantawer. He was not the designated area. Another prince stood before him in line of succession. If Pantawer was ever going to become pharaoh, something would have to change dramatically. Some historians believe Tay hoped political pressure alone might alter the succession. Others argue the documents clearly describe preparations for an assassination. The truth is that we cannot know exactly where the conspiracy crossed the line from political to ambition to murder. One of the most fascinating parts of the surviving evidence involves communication. The papyri describes messages passed between conspirators, officials inside the palace, members of the royal household, trusted servants, supporters beyond the palace walls. These weren't random conversations. Investigators believe they formed part of the organised effort. According to the records, certain individuals were accused of encouraging unrest outside the palace. Others allegedly recruited additional supporters. Some were even accused of using magical rituals and written spells in an attempt to influence events. To modern ears, they may sound unusual, but in ancient Egypt, magic wasn't automatically separated from religion or daily life. Protective spells and rituals and written charms formed part of many aspects of the society. Whether these rituals played any practical role in the conspiracy is impossible to know, but the investigators clearly considered them important enough to include them in their official records. As the investigators questioned those accused, a picture began to emerge. This wasn't simply Queen Tay and Pantawer. The conspiracy appeared to involve multiple officials from different parts of the royal administration. Some were trusted servants. Others held positions of responsibility within the palace. Several names appeared throughout the papyri. Many were later found guilty. Others received lesser treatments. Some appeared to have cooperated with investigators. Unfortunately, surviving records are incomplete. We know many names, we know many verdicts, but we rarely know exactly what each individual allegedly did. And this is the greatest frustration facing modern historians. The evidence proves a conspiracy if it existed. It doesn't explain every participant's role. Many historians believe the conspirators chose their moment carefully. Ramesses may have attended one of Egyptians' major religious festivals. Festivals brought to increase activity. Large numbers of officials, servants moved throughout the palace, ceremonies, crowds, distractions. If a conspiracy was ever going to succeed, this may have been the perfect opportunity. However, the surviving evidence doesn't allow us to reconstruct every moment. We know the plot existed, we know investigators later prosecuted those involved, but the exact sequence of events leading to the attack remains uncertain, and this is where history becomes detective work. Modern Egyptologists compare ancient documents, archaeological evidence, and later discoveries, trying to piece together what happened inside the palace over 3,000 years ago. Perhaps the most tragic figure in the entire story is Pantuer himself. If the papyri is accurate, the conspiracy was intended to place him on the throne, but he did actively help plan the assassination, or was he simply an intended beneficiary? Historians remain divided. His names appear among those brought to trial. Surviving records indicate he was found guilty. Rather than carrying out public execution, the court appeared to allow him to take his own life. Some scholars believe this reflected his royal status. Others argue the words of the ancient text leave room for interpretation. However, whatever happened, Pantuer never made pharaoh. Instead, his name became forever linked to one of ancient Egyptians' greatest political conspiracies. By the end of the trials, many conspirators have been punished. Some executed, others forced to end their own life. Justice, at least according to the courts, had been served. But one extraordinary question remains unanswered. Did the conspiracy actually succeed? The papyri describes the trials, but they never clearly explained whether Ramesses III died during the attack. For centuries, historians argued both sides, and some believe he survived long enough to order the investigation. Others believed he died immediately, and that the trials were conducted by his successor. Without physical evidence, nobody could ever prove the theory, and it would remain one of history's oldest unsolved murder mysteries until modern science finally reopened the case. Next time we will investigate the attack itself. We'll examine the mummy of Ramesses III, the astonishing discoveries made during the 2012 CT scan, the fatal wound hidden beneath ancient wrappings, and how modern forensic science solved a murder that had remained a mystery for more than 3,000 years. I'm Lisa, this is Say It Anyway, and this is to be continued.